Welcome back to the Kimi Kato Show. We're talking about anime today and getting to know all about the history and the beautiful artwork, the storylines, the characters, the voice artist. Kimmy?
Yes, sir. I'm going to now talk about the history of anime, which I really didn't know much about, but looked into it. And it's interesting, right? The origin of Japanese anime can be traced back to the early 20th century, with influences from both domestic and international sources. The earliest form of Japanese animation were heavily influenced by Western animation, most likely Disney, and Western animation techniques, particularly those from Europe and the United States. One of the earliest known Japanese animated film is Namakura Gatana, which means the dull sword, created by Junichi Kouchi in 1917. So that's really like 100 years ago almost, right? Oh, over 100 years ago. Um, he is known to be one of the pioneers in creation of animated films. Namakura Gatana is a silent short film which featured comedic elements and is considered one of the first examples of Japanese animation. So very interesting. I saw it, and it's really unique and depicted in such a way that I'm quite amazed that people could do this back in the day, and that was one of the first silent animations created in Japan. And then it goes from then on, throughout the 1920s and 30s, Japanese animators experimented with various animation techniques, often drawing inspirations from American cartoons, animated films. Notable pioneers of this era includes Seitaro Kitayama and Yasuji Murata, who created several short animated films using cutout animation and cell animation techniques. During World War II, the Japanese animation industry faced significant challenges due to wartime restrictions and the focus on wartime propaganda. However, some animators continued to produce animated films and propaganda cartoons during this period. After the war, the Japanese animation industry experienced a period of recovery and growth. The introduction of television in the 1950s provided new opportunities for animated programming, leading to the development of the first Japanese animated television series, such as Astro Boy or Tetsuwan Atom, created by Osamu Tezuka in 1963. Astro Boy is often considered a milestone in the history of Japanese animation and contributed to the popularization of both anime in Japan and internationally. Throughout the latter half of the 20th century, Japanese anime continued to evolve and diversify with the emergence of various genres and styles. In the 70s, we saw the rise of robot anime, including the iconic series such as Mobile Suit Gundam, which we mentioned earlier, while the 1980s saw the growth of idol anime genre with series like Macross and Creamy Mami. In the 1990s and 2000s, the popularity of anime expanded globally due to the widespread availability of home video releases and internet streaming, downloads, and nowadays, Japanese anime is a globally recognized art form with rich, diverse history, continuing to influence and inspire animators and audiences around the world. So there we have it.
That's very interesting. Are there current anime shows, characters, movies that are really popular right now that have at present day?
Mm-hmm.
Has it transformed
It's
at all?
definitely transformed. There are many. I will recommend a few in a minute. I'll recommend a few for you actually. But one of the most fascinating aspects of anime is its ability to tackle complex themes and issues.
Mm.
It's whether it
Mhm.
be or whether it's exploring the human conditions in shows like Neon Genesis Evangelion, or examining the nature of reality in Steins Gate. Anime has a unique knack for pushing boundaries and challenging viewers' perspectives. So, some of the recommendations for you. Should we go into that? Or do you
Well,
want to go into
why don't
break?
we take one last break? This will
Mm-hmm.
be our final break, and then
Mm-hmm.
that way I can grab a piece of paper and jot down and make notes here what I'm going to be watching this week. Give me some homework, Kevin. I have a feeling this is going to be fun homework. But before we go to break, I had a question when you were talking about just now
Mm-hmm.
that anime is one of its unique aspects is that it has this great ability to tackle complex themes and issues. And I was thinking about um, I, children's books, right? So I grew up, most kids, I think, in the West here grew up with their parents reading them children's books that had certain thematic problems and how to fix those, things that kids are going to go through life as they're growing up. And then they become almost teachers, these children's books, and they're animated and you find your favorite five, and you have your parents read them over and over and over. Now, it made me think about these complex issues that anime, tackles, tries to resolve, that children go through and then even in adult life. Do you think, is anime like a children's book in a way? Like, do kids read these? I know, at a certain age they read them, but do the parents read them to them, or are there children's books specifically for that in Japan? The same as here. Are there books that you read when you're a kid, your parents read you, or
Absolutely.
is anime mixed in there? Because it does seem like they have the themes are human themes that would teach kids.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Interesting question. I think so. There are many, many books and cartoons, or sorry, cartoons or so-called anime, manga that are targeted towards young children, um, moral stories that parents would read to you as you're growing up. Um, there are old stories, myths that are used in these manga or children's books to
like
teach
fairy
children.
tales, right?
Yes, like to
Yeah.
teach children about the moral issues. I think with anime and manga that are targeted towards older audience, like us, adults, it is very, very similar in the storytelling aspect. It is a lot to do with moral issues, where how to interact with people, what happens when you do things that people don't like doing, or it's about good and bad, or not just good and bad. And it becomes even more. It's so with children's books, it's very simple. It's either you're good or you're bad, right? I think and then with the anime or manga, it becomes far more complex, where everything's not about good or bad. Good people have bad aspect, bad people have good aspect, and it's never clear cut, black or white, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So it is talking about moral issues. It does depict these moral issues and romances that are not just about, oh, I love you, yes I do, it becomes even more complex when you're an adult, and that's where manga or anime becomes even more complex. But the elements, or essentially, it is about that. It is about the children becoming far more complex. But when you break it down, it probably is about children's book.
Interested. What a great answer. All right. You are listening to the Kimi Kato Show. We're exploring anime this hour. I'm Kimmy's co-host, Jeremiah. We're going to come back. We're going to take our last break here. We came back from break with Inferno by Mrs. Greenapple from, what a great title for a band, from Fire Force with opening theme, right, Kimmy? And we're going to go out right now. We're going to take you to break with The Rumbling by Sim from Attack on Titan, the final season, part 2, opening theme.
Rumbling, sorry. Yeah.
Rumbling. Okay.
Yeah.
We will be right back. And in the meantime, enjoy the music.